Welcome back to another week of the football podcast. Well, I should say soccer for our American viewers. It is the first week that we've actually seen all teams have now had a loss. There are no more undefeated teams. We are back with our co-host, firstly Victor in the corner in his Liverpool jersey. We also have, with the return of Catherine Clean Sheet Turner, is now back, enjoying her break, but she's back on the podcast. And Sam, our moderator. Guys, this was probably one of the first weeks where, it kind of was like, oh, the Premier League. There wasn't really much excitement. Catherine, I want to know from your side of things, what do you think went on this weekend? What results were surprising to you?
I think you said it right. There wasn't first week where also there weren't like a crazy amount of goals as well, because the past week it's been a crazy amount. So I think finally settled down a bit. But yeah, I'd say the big game was Leeds Aston Villa. Obviously, Aston Villa hadn't lost, and previous their game before they beat the previous champions 7-2. So this was an interesting one, but I thought the game, can't take anything away from Leeds, Bamford. I actually had an interesting stat. Leeds, the one thing I like about Leeds is that they are top three in the league for shots on target per match. I think they're attacking. We said it early on when they initially played Liverpool, just the way they attack. It just makes them more entertaining to watch. And, the goals, Bamford's second and third goal were really, really good. But, also Leeds had a goal line clearance. Villa did have chances, but didn't put them away. So I thought that was.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. And Victor, we know you had a point that you wanted to bring up about, players of the season and just understanding who would be, who's going to win the PFA. But what were your thoughts on the results?
Yeah, it wasn't the most interesting weekend for sure. Like Man U Chelsea, which was the big game of the weekend, was just as boring 0-0. But to be fair, Chelsea, even though someone on this podcast doesn't think it's a clean sheet against a good attack. Mendy in goal looked incredible. He made some great saves. Thiago Silva played really well. But I guess we were a bit spoiled with the 7-2s and the 6-1s that, like, when we get a normal weekend, we're like, wow, that was boring. But there was still a bit of controversy this weekend. A lot of Arsenal fans were upset at a disallowed goal they had early on against Leicester, which would have totally changed the game. In case you guys didn't see it, Lacazette won a header at the near post, and I'm not sure who it was called offsides for interfering with the keeper. In my opinion, he wasn't. He was definitely in an offsides position, but I don't think he was really in front of the keeper. It was more like kind of to the side of him. Like, it wasn't enough to really get in Schmeichel's way. But the ref called it, and then game stayed 0-0. Vardy came on, and Vardy did what he always does. I think it's 11 goals in 13 games now for him against Arsenal. He just scores against the top six all the time. It's just ridiculous.
So, Victor,
Liverpool won, so I'm happy.
Yeah, so Victor, that brings me to your question that you had about the player. I guess you can kind of introduce it, but you wanted to kind of get our thoughts on players of the season.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious because it's been such a crazy season with so many goals that I feel like there's been so many players that stood out. So I was just wondering who you guys think are a really way too early call, but an early call for PFA Player of the Year.
Catherine, who do you have as your pick?
Yeah, it's very early on, but I think just the way that Tottenham have been playing in the link up between Kane and Son, I think Son is consistently throughout all his time at Tottenham has been such a good player, and just the way he started this year, I think he could be a potential PFA Player of the Year.
You see, I like Son and I like Kane and I like the link up, but I wonder how they will do if one of them got injured. Like if Kane got injured, or if because it seems like Tottenham is heavily reliant on those two players, and I just wonder whether Son would still play that well without Kane there, or vice versa.
Kane was injured last year for a good portion of last season, and Son still did well. He isn't solely reliant on Kane as much because he is still such a quick winger, really creative, has a great shot. It's just he did good last year, but now Kane's there, he's done even better. So I think, having the addition of Kane has got his stats even higher. But if you look at his stats last year, he did insanely well and was really good for Tottenham.
And I think that's a great point. And I think, if I had to choose someone right now, you can't go past Jamie Vardy. Like, I was thinking about James Rodriguez, but he's been great, but he's not a PFA player winner. I think he's a phenomenal player, but not like a player this season. Vardy just scores and scores, and he's been doing it for so many years, and I just can't see anyone going past him this season with the player this season, and with the way Leicester are, coming up the ladder, like they could be a real fight. Victor, who do you think?
I'm gonna go with similar to what Catherine said, but I'm gonna pick the other partner in the duo. I'm gonna go with Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that Kane has 3 US goals than Son, I'm pretty sure. He only has 5, Son has 8, but Harry Kane has 8 assists, which is double John McGinn in second place with 4. And I think people kind of view Harry Kane as this poacher who just kind of people really underestimate his passing ability, because these haven't been those assists that are assists, but he kind of just lays it off and it's nothing special. He's playing 30, 40-yard balls straight onto Son's path, and it's just world-class passing, world-class assists on top of the 5 goals. So 5 goals, 8 assists in the first 6 matches. I highly doubt he'll keep that up, because those are Ronaldo, Messi-esque numbers, or a once-in-a-lifetime season for most players, but obviously those two do it every season. But if he just keeps similar numbers, of course he's going to drop down. I think he's just a lock for Player of the Year at this point, which is how well he has been doing.
Yeah, 100%. And it was going to be interesting to see how they keep it up throughout the season and see whether injuries play up or not. And as we mentioned, this app is this I should say podcast is sponsored by SportsMe. That app and that battle will be on there very soon. Feel free to join and hop on, and we definitely like to hear your take. I'd like to jump into some of the games this week. Like we mentioned, it was a very just classic week of the Premier League. There wasn't anything too exciting besides the top teams having their first loss. I want to jump right into the Aston Villa Leeds game. Now, looking at some statistics right now, and Aston Villa 12 shots, Leeds 27 shots, but and the possession was Leeds 60%, Villa 40%. But when I was watching the game, the game itself was very high quality and high game until the goals were scored. Catherine, I want to know what your thoughts were on the whole game as a whole, and what do you make of Bampton? He was a freak that match, and a beautiful hat trick as well to finish off the third goal.
He could have got more. He had, I think, 5 or 6 really, really solid chances. I thought he caused the back line of Aston Villa a lot of problems. But I think with Aston Villa, what we saw was that they're really susceptible to that counter-attack. Leeds, that shift when they win it back, how quickly they managed to get up the field. The first goal was a counter-attack, but they also had 3 or 4 chances going that way, going to the left side where Harrison is, and then playing balls in. So I thought Bamford was just, he was always in and around that box, always causing chaos. And I think he's a great player. He's technically good, but he's also good in the air. And I think he brings a lot to that striker role. And in the 3 at top, he's almost perfect for it. So, and I thought he had an outstanding game.
Yeah, phenomenal. And I want to know, Victor, firstly, your thoughts on the game. And do you think Bradford has a chance to be signed by another team in the summer or next season? Or do you think he'll be at Leeds for a couple of years at least? Or is he just having a phenomenal season this year?
I think that he should definitely stay at Leeds. I think he's one of those players that just suits the system well. It's funny because last year, he wasn't known as this goal scoring forward. He was in the side in the championship just for the fact that he works really hard. I saw it against Liverpool for sure. He's the perfect Bielsa type of striker who just presses all day long. But now he seems to just be adding goals to his game. It's funny because he wasn't really doing so in the championship, and then he comes up to the Premier League, gets a hat trick against Leeds, scores against Liverpool, has 6 goals in the first 6 games. It's insane. But I think this is the perfect club for him. I think it's the perfect manager for him. So I think it would be a bit stupid for him to leave. But I think this game just kind of shows how unpredictable the Premier League is. Like, obviously it's not this simple, but when you look at it, Leeds beat Liverpool 7-2, but Liverpool beat Leeds 4-3 in the first match day, and then Leeds goes there and beats Villa 3-0. Like, it just doesn't make sense sometimes, and that's just the beauty of the game. And Leeds completely deserved that win. Like, they had 27 shots that game. That's like insane. So again, like, Leeds are just, if anyone has free time during a Leeds game, they should definitely take the time out to watch it. Especially this Monday when they play Leicester. I think that'll be a really entertaining back and forth game. But they just look great every time they go forward.
No, yeah. I think the Leicester Leeds game will be, because they're both counter-attacking teams. I think that'll be who has the weaker defense and can't handle it. Because Vardy, Bamford, it'll be interesting to see which does better.
Yeah, it's interesting because Leeds signed Rodrigo, who's a really, really good striker who gets call up for the Spanish national team.
Yeah,
and Bamford's just playing so well, he's keeping him out of the team at this point.
Well, it's one of those things when you find a rhythm, you know, there's just no point. And he's almost just managed to get himself into a stride, and he's just performing every game. So it'll be one of those, once he finally has potentially a bad game, will then Rodrigo do well? That's
yeah, for sure.
And moving on to the next result, which wouldn't say was surprising, and this is coming from an Everton fan. It was long overdue. It was coming. Southampton versus Everton, 2-0 to them. Huge credit to them. They really outplayed us the entire match. Look, I think they showed up. I don't think, obviously we weren't playing our best, but it wasn't because we were playing our worst. That's why they won. They really were playing a great game, and credit to their team and credit to their lineup. I want to touch on the Luca Dean incident, which he almost had 3 game suspension and went down to 1. I don't know if any of you saw the incident, but it was accidental. Everton's been in the firing line for the last few weeks for various incidents, which we're not going to get into because I don't want to see Victor's veins boil. But what do you make of the incident? And were they similar to recent weeks, or do we think a fair result that they gave him 1 game, even though he probably shouldn't get a game at all?
I was actually surprised that they brought it down to 1 game. Not because it's just the FA is just weird with their 3 or 1 match bans or 2 match bans or whatever. Because I'm thinking back to earlier this season, it was Lamela and Martial where Lamela made a whole meal out of a simple little tap on his face, and Martial got 3 games for that. I totally agree that I think it was a red just because of the way he stepped on him. It was dangerous, but it was clearly an accident. He was just running back and stepped on him. It's there's nothing he could do. There was no malicious intent, unlike some other challenges that we will not talk about. So I think it's totally fair that it was brought down to 1 game. I just think the FA is just really weird and inconsistent when it comes to things like that.
Catherine, any thoughts on the game?
I would say the same. I'd say it's annoying though that the FA are inconsistent.
Oh yeah,
because there's so many occasions where there have been unintentional things. It's the Crystal Palace player with the high foot, and he wasn't even facing the player, but then his doesn't get cut down. But this was also unintentional. I agree, red card, but wasn't malicious. There wasn't the intent side, and then there was a Luke Shaw tackle which had intent. I can't remember who it was on, and that wasn't even a red card. So I think all of these stuff, there's so much controversy around red cards and then how long the match ban is for. You either keep it the same for everyone, or you're consistent with the decisions you make.
100%, and I think it brings me back to my last couple of weeks, and I think Vic mentioned it that they've been slowly doing it. Just have before every season, before the first game of the year, just have an hour where it's just about explaining all the rules so everyone understands what's going on, and it'll just make life easier and make fans' lives easier, because when they're watching a game trying to analyze things, it'll just make lives easier. I do want to make a shout out to Anthony Gordon, who came on, and he looked like fire, and I think with Richarlison out, I think he should really get a start. to bring on, look, Ancelotti's a genius, and obviously, the knowledge that the man has in football, clearly he knows what's best for the team, and I will never question his decision. But for me, it was an odd one bringing on Fabian Delph when he only had played 30 minutes in the last year of Premier League football. So maybe that was just to see whether it's even worth keeping him. It wouldn't surprise me if he's gone in January. I don't know. What were your thoughts about that, Victor? Do you think bringing on someone who hasn't played, or even Catherine, being a player yourself, if you haven't played for a whole season and bringing them on for 20 minutes, what goes through a manager's mind when they do that? Is that panic, or is that meant to be strategic?
Yeah, I don't think it's panic, because they haven't played in a year. They have to play eventually, unless you're planning to not use them. You want to see how the training and on the field is very different. So you probably wanted to see how he would do, how he is in the game, and see how it is. Because if you're going to make a decision like keeping him or letting him go, you need to see them play first. And in 20 minutes, it is a long enough period where you can have an impact. When subs are put in for the last 5, even occasionally I say the last 10, there's very little they can do. But for 20 minutes, you can actually see a player, help him get match fitness, which isn't the same as training fitness, and kind of get their sharpness and speed up, because Delph is still a good player. But he needs to get, games under his belt before you can really judge.
Yeah, I think it was definitely he knew what he was doing, because I'm looking here. When Delph came on, it was a double switch. He came on for Sigurdsson and Gordon came on for Doucouré. So Gordon's obviously a striker, and Delph's more of a defensive-minded midfielder. So since Doucouré came out, they definitely just needed someone like that. And I think exactly what Catherine said. It's just a match fitness thing, because he could have brought on Andre Gomes, but he just chose not to. And I wouldn't question Ancelotti. Who are we to be yeah, he panicked when he's won multiple Champions Leagues. It's he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I would trust it.
But in saying that, do you think though, when you're 2-0 down and you bring on a player like having Delph, and you have Gomez on the bench, in his head, is he knowing that they're not coming back and he just wants to ride out the game, or is he doing that for No,
because he brought on a striker with him.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's different if he brought on all defensive players, but just because you bring on one defensive player doesn't mean you're throwing in the towel. I think it's 1-0. You don't want to concede more, because if you concede 2, it's way harder to come back from that. So you bring on, it's almost smart bringing on a striker and someone a bit more defensive. You shore up the back line and then you go gun ho.
Yeah, so, and someone like Delph lets your fullbacks just go up, because you have Delph there covering, especially when I personally think Lucas Digne going forward is one of the best in the league and probably should be one of your best offensive outlets. So bringing on someone like Fabian Delph, who's a little more defensive minded than maybe someone like Andre Gomes, who pushes up more, that gives your fullbacks the chance to go forward. That's just one of my pet peeves when fans are oh, they're losing to bring on a defensive mid. It's it's not that simple.
Yeah,
it's not that simple.
Exactly.
Moving on to our next game, Catherine, Chelsea is 0, United 0. What did you make of the game itself? And do you think it was a fair result, or do you think Chelsea or United should have had the win?
I'm glad that we're finally getting clean sheets. I think that's what every Chelsea player. It's now 3, and yes, a clean sheet is when you don't concede a goal. For anyone who's curious, regardless of the result, if there is a 0, you kept a clean sheet. But yeah, no, I'm just finally defensively we're kind of seem to be doing better, and it's just whether we can continue. I think that's always been the biggest thing, because if we can sort that out, then we'll do the attacking side will sort itself out.
And if we look at other results, we'll just jump on them quickly before we go to our hot fuzz for the week. Victor, very, very quickly with Liverpool. It's interesting how we all thought Sheffield were going to have I thought Sheffield were going to have a great season. They're now, right at the bottom, not doing great. What were your thoughts on the match? Any good recoveries?
Sheffield played well, I thought. If they play like this for the rest of the season, I think they'll definitely pick up some points. But I think we got really unlucky to go 1-0 down. I don't know if you guys saw the quote-unquote penalty incident, but think it was debatably a foul, but I think it was certainly outside of the box. And the fact that it was another VAR call that kind of just made me scratch my head, and I was just like, what? But we won. What?
So is it going to be? Are you guys also going to be called Liverpool now instead of Liverpool, just to kind of interact?
No, because the calls are going against us at this point. So, but it was nice to see just another comeback, which seems to always happen. Like, I'm always confident that we have the mental strength to come back. It was good to see Firmino score. He definitely needed that first confidence. Diogo Jota scoring the winner. He definitely has been a great signing for us. I'm really excited about him. Fabinho, who got injured, is going to be a big miss for us because he's been amazing at center back. Now we only have Joe Gomez, who's a fit senior center back. Two special shout outs to Andrew Robertson, who I feel like people aren't talking about enough. He has been amazing this whole season. Trent was also amazing that game. He was voted our man of the match in the Champions League game as well. Mohamed Salah, who did not score, but he had a ball on the post and another great chance that I think he was called offsides. He had a great goal called offsides, but that one was a fair offsides call. But he's another one with 6 goals in 6 games, and he just I feel like people aren't talking about it, but he's just looking like he's back to that old clinical self that we saw in the first season, which would be a big problem for the rest of the league. But I'm really happy to see it because he looks amazing.
100%, and I think someone mentioned to me statistics like the last couple of days, and I'm just analyzing it now. If you guys want to look at the last time Everton and Liverpool were really dominant forces in the league, was in 1987-88 when Everton won the league, and it was Everton first, Liverpool second, Spurs third, and then the classic top four Chelsea and United, they were both in the bottom half. And I'm looking at the ladder now, and it's crazy to see how, I know it's only 6 games in and there's a long season to go, and it's, but can you guys remember the last time when we saw Chelsea, Arsenal, United, and even, City, in the bottom 10 all at the same time?
Yeah, but you have to realize that this year's going to be different. It won't be 90-point league. There won't be a single team dominating the entire time. So I think that because someone was saying to me how they're a bit worried about City, and City may go, City will end in the low half. City will come back. They're a great team. I think it'll all be a matter of points, and I think it will literally come down to every game. And so I think honestly it will be around the 70, 80, probably the 80 mark. And so actually them being that low, it's very easy to catch up.
Victor, any thoughts on the lower team, on the generally, top 4, top 6 teams starting off really badly?
I mean, I like it. Even just looking at it as a neutral, it's really just kind of cool to see Everton in first, completely as a neutral. Everton first, Villa third. Leicester has been up there, but Leeds in 6. It just kind of looks like those old school tables that you look at, and it's just really nice to see. But I don't see it lasting. I still think Everton, Leicester, Villa, they will definitely be top half teams, but Man City are just too good. Same thing with Chelsea. Man U, debatable. Same thing with Arsenal, kind of debatable. You never know what you're going to get with those two. But I think the league will kind of just even itself out as it goes along, as it always does.
And how many games do we think Pep and Ole both have in their current roles before things become sour? If it continues like this, how many games do you think it will be?
A while, actually. Yeah. Just because Pep is Pep, and Ole has just had 2 back-to-back huge wins in the Champions League. That it's like what I said, I think it was in the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, where I'm Ole just manages to keep his job. He'll just get some crazy wins, and then he's there for another few months where they do terrible. But it's wow, remember when we beat PSG and then we beat Leipzig 4-0, and it's he gets his job, and he seems to be doing that again. Which, as a Liverpool fan, I'm happy with, because this is the worst Man U side I've seen in a while.
Catherine, thoughts?
I think it's the same. I think then neither of them are going to be let go anytime soon. Not before Christmas.
Sam, before we go into our hot fires, what are your thoughts? Do you think there are issues with the Manchester teams, and do you think something can happen at the end of the season, before the end of the season?
I do see a problem with Manchester City, especially. They've been struggling a lot, which has been that's probably the biggest shock to me. Do I see anything happening to them both? I mean, probably not. But again, Man City paid like $500 million or something crazy, and they haven't done anything. So I've been agreeing with everything. Yeah, just I don't know what's going on with them. So
They tell West Ham this weekend too. We haven't touched on that, but Antonio scored a beautiful goal.
right.
Yeah, you actually had just reminded me. I was going to bring up the point about West Ham. You know, it's funny because they're playing well, but when you look at the ladder, it just doesn't reflect like the results that they're getting. And Moyes has done a phenomenal job, and I think he really should be commended for what he's done with the West Ham team. And like you mentioned, the goal was a phenomenal goal in the week before. If they keep it up this way, like you mentioned, there's no, and I think Catherine mentioned, there's not going to be a 90-point season. It's going to be a very close title race, and I think that's what we need for the game. It's because people, when COVID ends in terms of the crowd restrictions, they're going to be flooding the gates because they're going to be missing football, and it's such a great year to make such an exciting season like this. And I think, it's really great that it's like, come back to this old school way. My hot fast for the week, as we are wrapping up the podcast, massive shout out, and maybe Catherine might be able to touch on a bit, to the Everton ladies team who are playing in the FA Cup final on Sunday against Manchester City. It's funny because Everton ladies are doing phenomenal and the men are doing phenomenal as well. And Haley Rasso from Australia, she's also having, a great time. Felt so bad for her this week that, her family home got broken into and all her like stuff got stolen, which wasn't great. So if anyone has seen any Matilda merchandise or anything that, resembles Haley Rasso's official gear, please let the club know so they can try and track down the thieves. Catherine, do you know anyone from either team that might be playing in the game this Sunday? And what are your thoughts on how the Women's League has just been shaping up this year and how it's literally, becoming better and better, and more people are talking about it?
No, it's great. I think Everton have started well. Obviously, if you look at the teams they've played against, they haven't played any of the big ones. The big names are still dominating, and I think they will. The Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City. But on the run to this FA Cup, they knocked out Chelsea. So they've shown they can win big games. So I think they could actually give Man City a run for their money, but Man City are looking for a trophy. So I think ultimately they'll probably win. But yeah, no, a few of the people I know and a few people I've played with or against should hopefully be playing in the game, which would be nice.
What are your thoughts on the women's game at the moment? I think, I really do think it should be. I love watching it, and more people should be watching it. I don't know why it doesn't get the same coverage. It's phenomenal football.
Yeah, no, I always love watching the Women's World Cup. I always keep up with it. I definitely should keep up more with like Liverpool's ladies teams and stuff like that. But it's just harder to find somewhere to watch it. It's definitely something that, like, if there was more coverage, as you mentioned, I definitely would watch it. It's not like I don't watch it because of a lack of quality or anything like that. It's just harder to find. So that's the main thing. Like, unless they start showing games like the way they do on like NBC, like, I don't think more people will start watching it and realizing that the quality actually is really good. That's why everyone watches the Women's World Cup, because it's everywhere. Like, especially here in America, since the women's team is so good, like whenever they play, it's easy to watch and I always tune in. So it's just something like that. But I hope Manchester City win.
Well, look, you need to remember though that this is in Europe it's shown a bit more, but it's not going to reach America yet.
Yeah,
it hasn't gotten that big in England.
I will say
reaching America
that there have been a few of the American stars signing for the big English clubs though. Like, I'm pretty sure Alex Morgan's at
Tottenham.
Spurs. Yeah, didn't someone sign with Man City?
Yeah, Lavelle signed with Man City and one other, and then Heath and Press went to Man United.
Yeah, there you go.
And Catherine, do we and I think you mentioned the link or the subscription for the Women's League a couple of weeks ago. Do you have those details for our viewers if they wanted to watch the league? No details.
I never mentioned a link.
I thought it was a link. I thought maybe it was from the actual Premier League, Women's Premier League site itself. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think, like, in the next couple of years, we're going to see the games live in par with the men's, or you think it's still a long way away?
Yeah, I think it's still. I think the strides we made are huge. I think it will never be on par with the men's, but I think it will be able to reach more countries like the US, especially if more of their players come and join the English league, because the European league is now going up, and it's not so much America, and you can see that in the World Cup and stuff. But I think it will take a few more World Cups before it really starts to blow up.
And maybe the 2023 Australia New Zealand World Cup could be that start and be that
I think that's
part.
Yeah.
And I think going to the other side of the world and seeing how phenomenal Australia has done with tournaments such as the Olympics, such as all these different things in the Rugby World Cup. I really think it could spike, and I really good luck to both teams on Sunday, and it's going to be an interesting game. Catherine, what's your hot fuzz for the week? Anything interesting in the world of football?
Mine's a really kind of a hot fuzz. I think mine's more like a question. So obviously, Liverpool have had two rough injuries in the centre back position. I think what I'm curious is probably more to Victor. Who do you think they should put in at centre back? Because it's not certain that Matip will be able to play this weekend. So who do you think should go with Gomez at the back?
Look at Akiva's smile.
Yeah, I know he's loving it.
I'm just getting a popcorn out.
I mean, with Fabinho out and Matip out, we don't have a choice. Like, at this point, we've been playing Reece Williams, whose story is actually amazing. He was playing non-league football a year ago, and now he's played in the Champions League and in the Premier League. And the first game, I'm not going to lie, he came out against Ajax and he looked shaky. He didn't impress me. But the second game, he definitely did better. And I think over time, he'll do better. Matip is supposed to be back before the Man City game. But for now, we only have Williams to play. So it's not even like we have that many options.
He could change formation. He could, you never know. The guy could mix it up, but you had more other options. But you got to remember, who did you get rid of this summer? Who was a centre back?
We got rid of Sepp Vandenberg, but he's another youngster who never played. Yeah, he never played. We don't have any senior options because Fabinho was already moved back. It's like at this point we might as well play James Milner, who's played every other position on the field at center back. But I think. Honestly, I like.
He does the long range passing.
He puts in a shift, like a 7 out of 10 everywhere he plays. I would not be surprised. But for now, it's definitely going to be Reece Williams. The only time I've seen us play like a 3 at the back, he played Wijnaldum and Emre Can in a back 3 and I think it was Lovren in the middle. We won that game like 5-1 somehow. But
Lovren, that's the person you got rid of.
Oh yes, wow! I totally forgot about Lovren.
That's got to be a.
Yeah, they're definitely regretting that now.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that a lot of Liverpool fans were worried about. Like, we don't have that many center backs, but again, we're at the point where we just I personally just trust whatever Klopp and the rest of them decide to do. But I think at this point we have to sign a center back in January because obviously Van Dijk's out for the season. Matip just seems to always be injured, and then Gomez also gets his fair share of injuries, and it just seems like we just need someone. We've been linked with Upamecano. We've been linked with we were linked with a center back from Schalke whose name I can't remember right now, even before all these injuries happened. So I would not be surprised to see us bring a center back in January.
So how do you think you'll do tomorrow? Because West Ham have been doing well. They get results against big teams. I think the missing centre back will be a hit.
Yeah, I think I'm still confident we should have enough to beat them. And I'm confident that in this run of games before Man City, since there is an international break, we literally only have West Ham, and then I think we play Atlanta in the Champions League, which should be okay since we already have 6 points. I think we'll be fine those 2 games, just because we should be better. And I think I would be more worried if Alisson hadn't come back, just because if it's like we have like a youngster playing in center back, and then you have Adrian, who's been very like error prone, I would be a lot more worried. But just having Alisson in that, and he made some great saves in the Champions League, that just made me feel a lot more secure, a lot more confident. And I think we'll be okay, because we still have Trent, we still have Robertson and Gomez in that defense. We still have Alisson, who's one of the best keepers in the world. Thiago's coming back to play that holding mid position. If not, Henderson's there. Like, I think we'll be okay.
I also think it's just like, it amazes me how, the season is crazy as it is, and we still have the January transfer window coming up. Like, that's really going to take an interesting effect on the season. I just wonder, if teams such as Villa and, Everton are still in the top 4, top 5, when it comes to that time, how the clubs are going to spend in January. Are they going to spend big to try and continue? And it's really going to make a phenomenal season. Victor, just quickly, what's your hot fuzz over this week?
So I kind of mentioned it, but I just wanted to talk about our Champions League. 2 games, 2 wins, a good 6 points. Ajax was a bit tricky, but we looked really good last time out against, I'm not even going to try to pronounce their name, but Midtjylland, something like that. Names I can never pronounce. They were a good side. It was their first time in the Champions League proper like group stage, but I'm just happy that we usually struggle in the group stage for some reason, but this time we're kind of walking it, which just makes me really happy. Atlanta and Ajax tied also, so we have a bit of a gap at the top. So that's definitely my hot fuzz for this week, especially with Fabinho getting injured. It was rough. But we played well. We're doing really well in the Champions League. We've kept 2 clean sheets in the Champions League, which was really nice after conceding 7 goals. So that's up to me.
It's so good. And on that game, I'd like to do a shout out to Omar Bill, and not as the commentator was frustrating the entire Australia, not Aura Marble, an Australian player playing first time in Champions League. He came from the A-League, actually. He came from, the Australian Football League, which, it's probably like, I would say Conference North, Conference South standard of English football. That's my opinion. You can battle me that on SportsMe if you disagree with me or not. But, I obviously am a big supporter of the league. But it's great to see, young Australian products coming up the ranks and literally from the A-League straight to the Champions League. And the fact that he could go up against some of the world's best in Liverpool, in the reigning champions, I think that's a memory that will take him for a lifetime. I think that's all we have time for this week on this podcast. Thank you, guys. It was a lot to get through. Sam, do you have any last minute words of this week? Oh, speaking about Sam, we may be having some future guests coming on, aka Sam's dad, talking to us about some championship football, because although this is a Premier League mainly only podcast, we're going to have in the next few weeks a championship special, which should be interesting, just to see what's been happening down literally see what's been happening down there. And
it's so funny.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Okay, later, guys.